and we have seen it so many times over the last 2.5 years in particular. Premier and I have stood here in this very site not that long ago, back in 2019, as fires ripped through this area. David and I have been through here on drought, and now we're here with floods. And over the last year, you've been dealing with COVID too. Earlier today, when I was down near port, places like Telegraph Point and others, just seeing the devastation of people's businesses. And it's not just that the businesses have lost their equipment and their generators and all of these things. These are businesses that families have built up over a lifetime. And it's not just the loss of the income, it is the loss of a way of life that they have worked so hard to build. And that is just heartbreaking for them. And just as we have stood with people, whether through COVID, whether through bushfires, whether through drought, floods, tornadoes, cyclones, we're of course going to stand here with the people of the Mid-North Coast, the people of the Hawkesbury, others who have been devastated by these floods. Already, of course, we're rolling out the disaster recovery payments on that 180-2266 number. We've got over 2,000 people there taking calls. They've done a magnificent job getting emergency support to people. But we've got to do a lot more than that. The clean-up now begins, the sun's out, the waters are receding, and there's going to be more difficulty ahead as we see what happens, particularly for primary producers, whether they're oyster farmers or they're dairy farmers or other producers across the district. They've got some difficult days ahead. I remember seeing this also firsthand up in North Queensland with the devastating floods that wiped out over 500,000 head of cattle in 24 hours. And there's going to be a lot of that devastating loss as we have to get into carcass disposal and cleaning out these sheds that have been in water up to their roofs. And so I want to thank the New South Wales Government, to Gladys and Barra. The partnership between the New South Wales Government and the Federal Government has been extraordinary. We've been working closely together, and I want to thank the Emergency Management Minister as well, David. They've done a great job working with my Minister to get the support where it's needed. Defence Force have now arrived. They're here. They're part of the recovery team, the clean-up team. 70 are already here, being drawn from the 44th Battalion, who are already on the ground. They're going to be joined by more than 400 more as we work with all the other teams. It's been so good to see SES working with RFS, with the Fire and Rescue, the whole team working as one unit with our Defence Forces to ensure that we can get the job done. Just seamlessly working together as teams, it's tremendous. But we've got to back this up with a number of new measures of support. The Premier wrote to me yesterday and outlined their plan, and I'll let the Premier and John Barilaro speak to that more specifically. But a key part of that is what's called Category C and D funding support, which is what comes in place when you get a big disaster like this. That means that New South Wales and the Commonwealth Government will share the cost of the recovery 50-50. We will carry this load together, as we have already carried so many other loads together over these last few years. What that means is we'll be able to support small business grants for those directly impacted, and John can speak more to that, of up to $50,000, and importantly, primary producer grants of up to $75,000. Now, those $75,000 grants are critical for those producers to get back up on their feet, but no, we are backing them in, and that we will be there to help them restock and rebuild and get their machinery up and running again, and be able to get their operations up and running again. These grants have been so critical in previous disasters, in particular flood disasters. It's just not cash, it's a message of hope to each of those producers and those small businesses who are going to need that help, who have been directly impacted through these arrangements. The broader clean-up arrangements, they will continue. The ADF support, that's all over and above what we're talking about here. And so this is not just a helping hand. This is an enormous embrace that is coming from the Commonwealth Government along with the state government to ensure that we stand with the people of the Mid-North Coast and across the state to ensure, as the waters recede, their hopes rise and we see this part of the country once again realise all of their expectations.